I'm going to do my absolute best to not just sob up here. There's a lot of emotion that kind of goes into this because this sculpture, doing this, I actually never thought I would be showing this to anybody. It was something that was going on in my heart that I needed to get out. It was almost like it was this growing thing that was kind of just festering is the negative way to say it, but it was just something that was just growing and I had to get it out. And it started, there's kind of a longer story about it. I really don't think we have time for the whole thing, but it started a couple years ago, and I went to a creative conference with my son, and I had two prayers for this conference. My son's super creative, or one of my sons super creative, and I just wanted to connect with him. I wanted to spend time with him, and the other part was, Lord, help me be in an environment where my heart doesn't get hard, because before I started coming here, my whole world blew up. And so there was a big part of me that was praying, and I was asking the Lord, Lord, am I disqualified now? I've gone through a divorce. And some of you guys in here, you guys knew me when I was married. And there was just a big question in me. Lord, am I disqualified from your plan now? And so everything that's kind of happening here is really something that I'm longing for. It's not something that I feel like I've achieved or anything like that. It's, typical artist speak right now. It's about a lot of things. I think it's about God, the Father. I think it's about me as a father. And I think it's about wanting to connect with my dad. Just over 3 years ago, he passed away from cancer. And so there was a desire to be this. So this piece is called Father and Son. This is the Father, this is the Son. And there was just I missed my dad like crazy. It's one of those things where him and I had a lot of tension most of my life. And some of it, like Dave just said, people are going to think it's weird when you try to follow the Lord. Well, when I was in school, I told my dad I'm going to be an artist. That didn't go well. He just didn't have a grid for it. Didn't understand it, and I get it now. Now that I've had kids, I can only imagine what was going through his head. He did his best to just kind of try to love me through it, but there was a lot of years of tension, not knowing. He didn't know what to do with that, but I was trying to follow the Lord. So, as a grace, there was a ton of healing between my dad and I. The last, I would say, 4 years of his life. And it was just, he was one of my favorite people to be around. And I missed him. Just missed him. I wanted to have this kind of nearness with him because we had just gone through a time of healing to where I felt that closeness with him. One thing it's hard to know, what do I point out, what do I talk about? I'm going to scoot around the back over here. You can't tell from where you're sitting. Feel free to come up and look at it later. And sometimes people ask me, hey, can I touch it? Yeah, I'm okay if you want to come up and touch it later. It's okay. I like wood, so wood's fun to touch. There's actually a separation between the Son sculpture right here and the Father figure right here. So there's like this point of contention right here. And then there's a separation, and then right up in this area, there's a nearness. And that's the healing that I always wanted between my father and I. That's the healing that I was wondering about after I went through a divorce. Lord, can I be close to you? Lord, am I disqualified from you leading me? And at the same time, because of that divorce, there was a lot of tension between my sons and I. And I wanted to be this dad that could be close to his son. And David mentioned the class that I was in. There's a lot of naive thinking going into starting this, I will say that. When I told my teacher, the professor, whatever, hey, here's my plan, his eyes got real big, and he just was like, wait, what do you want to do? I said, so I'm going to take these two different pieces of wood. So this is actually two different pieces. This is, for the wood nerds out there like me, this is a mesquite piece of wood. It was a big log that I got at a local lumber yard. And then this piece right here, the sun, this is a grapefruit tree that I dug up across the street. I looked all over town. I even looked up in Flagstaff. I couldn't find the right piece, and turns out it was across the street. That was crazy. So when I told my instructor what I was going to do, his eyes kind of got real big. He's just like, why do you want to do that? And for me, it was all about trying to bring this closeness between two very distinct things, fathers and sons, man. So who's father in here? Go ahead and raise your hand. Ever had tension with a son? Ever had any kind of a struggle? It's innate. Every single father I know has some of that struggle. But I also believe every son and father want nearness. They want closeness. They want healing. They want restoration. So as you could see, there's this closeness that's right here, and there's kind of a supportive hand right here. So this is a father trying to support a son coming near him, but it's a very loose grip. I don't believe fathers force their sons to do things, or I think some fathers think they can force. It's impossible. So I think a true father's heart is to guide, and so the idea here is that he's guiding his son's attention and supporting him. But ultimately, this is what I want the whole piece to be about. Everything. This is the whole thing, if I could try to sum it up in one small thing. I think all fathers and sons desire closeness. They desire that healing, but it will only go so far. I truly believe that a father's greatest strength, greatest responsibility is to direct the son's attention to things above. Direct him to the Lord. So that's why the whole piece, like this, the whole momentum of it, to use some art language, the whole momentum, the push, everything is leading towards this hand right up here. Interesting thing, because of my inexperience and just lack of knowledge, I thought I had enough wood to do the whole thing. I miscalculated. So I actually had to attach a piece of wood up here for the hand, but I like it. Because I really believe what I'm trying to show here is that he's directing the son's attention up, but this is actually, you could see a seam here between two different kinds of wood. What I'm trying to show there is that's actually leading the son's attention up into the spiritual. So that's actually a seam right there. So this is actually into the spiritual. And there's a lot of like roughness to this part compared to everything else. And the idea there is that that's where the real change happens. That's where the real, that's where the magic happens. Not magic like bad magic, but like C.S. Lewis magic, good magic. That's where the Lord really, truly heals and defines and brings change to us. That's where he really defines who we really are. So the idea is that everything on here, this is like the most defined piece of the sculpture. has details like you could see fingernails and that kind of stuff. And so the idea is that that's where a true shaping comes. And that's a father's greatest responsibility and honor and privilege, is to direct a son to say, hey, this is where I have found the greatest healing. This is where I've found the greatest definition of who I'm supposed to be.